Well, welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it as always. Thanks to the folks who make the program go, like my buddies up at Mazda of Columbia. Thanks to those guys as well. As I'm all like, I feel like I've got like meatloaf or like crumbs in my mouth. It's kind of how I feel this afternoon. We're going to try to give you a good show regardless. I don't feel like I'm sick. Don't everybody start talking about, oh, Rob's dealing with the vid. No, it's nothing like that. I just when I've got like the Super Bowl Monday thing going on, where everybody like doesn't want to do the whole Super Bowl thing, and then you got Valentine's Day on top of that. What a mess. All right, anyway, lots of things we're going to get into today, including 247 Sports put out the projected 15 toughest schedules in 2022. And I want to laugh openly at this, and we will, because in reality, we don't know much about these teams. We don't. Anyway, we'll get into that. Papa Blake Online already off the top rope. Last week's Leonard's Losers, Auburn football and Clemson basketball. Leonard's Losers was great, by the way. I'm showing my age with that. Basically, the guy would get on and tell you every Saturday morning who would lose on the college football front. Yeah. Leonard's Losers was great. Go and Google that. Put that in your Google machine. Anyway, we'll respond to this latest list. We've also got transfer portal winners and losers from the ACC and several other things that we'll get into here today on the Rundown. We'll start with, of course, a quick look at the Super Bowl. It's so funny because a lot of the stuff I look at on my social media timeline is like either A, I'm not going to watch the NFL because it's un-American, or B, my team's not playing, but I'm going to watch X, Y, and Z, or C, I'm watching it for the commercials, etc. Look, I can tell you in my house, my wife and I watched, and she sat over there and did her thing with her schoolwork and all that. But when the halftime show comes on, she's like, turn up the television. She wants to watch that. Now, you got to give credit to the NFL for putting on a halftime show where the majority of it you could come across as polarizing with some folks. That's kind of the way I looked at it on my timeline. There were not people that thought that, okay, the Super Bowl is this halftime show is either the greatest thing ever or it is a gong show. I don't like it. It's not my music, etc. Look, I hate to break it to you, but we've sat through Super Bowl halftime shows that were god awful. I mean, just awful. And whoever goes out there is fighting a battle that they can't win. I can tell you that the soundtrack last night was a lot of the stuff I listened to when I was younger. I thought it was great. Now, on the other hand, I'm a big Prince fan. Prince will always go over as the best for me. The guy sang Purple Rain and it in the middle of a rainstorm. Okay. And they actually had the lights on the stage with it purple. So it looked like it was raining purple rain. And maybe I'm just a Prince apologist, but I like that halftime show. It's tough for that one to crack, but last night's was actually really good. Really good. Anyway, if you want to call and talk about that, Papa Blake Online says he expected better officiating, and the best commercial was for the Chevrolet Tony Soprano commercial. You know, the wife saw that commercial and said, wouldn't it be great, because they had like Meadow Soprano running out, driving the car and all that good stuff. And she's like, that's how they should bring back the Sopranos with her running the crime family. Yeah, that would work. That would work. Papa Blake also says Michael Jackson's halftime was pretty legit. Twan Loves Kicks asked me what's going on with the Clemson men's basketball program. Look, if I knew that, I'd probably be the coach. Okay? Here's what I can tell you that I believe with the Clemson basketball program. PJ Hall is a hell of a player. He is a guy that is really, really good. And I know that people look at me like I'm silly when I say this. He went from the upstate to Clemson, and to be honest, he could have went anywhere. I think he's going to be a second team, maybe third team All-ACC selection this season. He is really that good. The rest of the team, I know that Alamir Dawes has played some games where he gets better. Here's my thing with Clemson, though. They can't shoot. They cannot shoot the basketball. And I know people are like, wow, yeah, when they're hitting the three-point shot, they're a really good team. But when they're not, they're terrible. They don't have somebody that can step out there and shoot the three-point shot. Simple as that. They play defense somewhat, but they go through big spurts where they don't really do much of anything. Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832. And welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Well, if it isn't the round mound of football ignorance.
Well, hello. How are you? Have you finally got out of the convent? I expect my ashtray to be shipped to me, sir.
First of all, the fact that Prince fan surprises no one.
The fact that what?
The fact that you are a Prince fan surprises no one.
Well, hold on. You don't like Prince?
The fact that you admit it, on the other hand, that's a little surprising.
Hold on, sir. Sir, I have a ton of respect for you, but you don't like Prince? Get the hell out of here.
Remember the line, maybe I'm just like my mother?
Yeah.
Let's just say I believe him.
Oh,
I think he's a little too much like his mother, okay?
Fair enough.
Maybe that's what you liked about him. I don't know. Your business.
Maybe it's just because he was one of the best artists of all time and put together some of the greatest music. And you probably like some of the stuff he's written that's been sang by other people, but you probably didn't dig into it enough to know how great Prince is. But I don't expect anything different from you. I mean, you're a Georgia fan, so it's a process.
Well, look, everyone knows your judgment's a bit skewed. It's the same guy who bashes Will Muschamp, who has 3 national title rings.
I can line up people right now who will rip Will Muschamp, sir. You're in the minority, and he may leave your program to go to Mizzou. I don't know. It may happen.
First of all, I refer to him as 3 rings Willie, and he's not going to Mizzou. He's home. He's going to stay home.
I think they're newer rings, but go ahead.
Yeah, he's going to keep pumping out titles. But no, here's why I called. I get to listen to your show now, but I got a new schedule where I can't call in as much. I know that breaks your heart. I do want to address a caller. His name is Hollywood, and again, he's the most appropriately named caller you have because he lives in a fantasy world. But I've not done well financially early in life, so I need to catch up on my retirement savings, and I've come up with a plan. I need Hollywood to keep calling, especially next year during football season. Whatever that guy says, I'm putting everything in the other team. I did the math on last year's games. If I had done that last year, I would be like in the George Soros category for gajillions of dollars right now. So I need him to keep calling. I need his
Yeah.
on it. Can you pass that along?
I can definitely pass along that you want more of Hollywood on the air predicting games. Got it. I think he was 1-14 picking against Georgia last season, something like that.
He was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was on fire last year. Definitely. I need that guy to keep calling. He's a genius. I'll tell you what, though, he doesn't let being wrong stop him, does he? He pumps another one right out the next week.
Absolutely not.
Same thing. So
you got to admire him for that because he keeps getting hit in the face and keeps coming back. He's like Rocky.
He's got Joe Dirt optimism. Let's just say that.
Fair enough.
He's life's a garden, dig it.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Hey, 43-18, Rob.
You have a great day. Thanks for joining the program, sir. There you go. More folks wanting Hollywood to call with predictions. Hollywood calls whenever the hell he wants. I don't know. Some response. Caller didn't like Prince. The caller didn't listen to Prince music because he just now got a radio. I'm surprised that he's using a phone. I mean, to be honest. I mean, I've heard that he still uses smoke signals. I don't know. When he wants some food or whatever, he starts sending out the smoke signals, whatever. I don't know where to go with that. Jason says, whoa, begging Prince rocks. Yeah, he does. You're like one of the few people I know that don't like Prince. Shame on you for that. Oh, man. Begging Megan doesn't like Prince. That is just sad. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Justin says, roll tide. How Alabama beating Arkansas the other day. We're on a 2-game winning streak and back at number 25. Look, here's the thing. Alabama, Arkansas, they're two teams that are going to be in the top 25, I think, towards the end of the season. And if you're looking for a team that's going to break a bracket for you, you can argue that it's going to be Alabama. I'm starting to get together my teams that could break brackets. One of them is Arkansas. One of them is Alabama. And it could be on the other side with Auburn. I think Auburn's going to shock some folks in that I don't think they're going to be in the Elite Eight or the Final Four like a lot of people are projecting. P Digits Online says hello. Welcome to the program, sir. Anyway, taking your response from of course, what Beg and Megan said and what we talked about earlier. I'm also going to bring you the projected top 15 toughest schedules in 2022. You talk about bookcase of accountability. This is going on the bookcase of accountability right here. I've got it. And by the way, I appreciate people writing stuff like this. I have a hard time projecting things like this because I don't know who is going to be where. You know what I'm saying? You could have guys that are in the transfer portal that are going to go to other spots. Who knows at this juncture? I know that you look at, let's take West Virginia. They're going to have a new running back in Lynn J. Dixon. Miami's got a new wide receiver in Frank Latson. Both of those guys played at Clemson. That's somewhat of a, they were pretty good there. Let's leave it at that. They're going to go to these other schools and they're going to be in the mix. So I say that in that you've got D1 ready players that are still in the transfer portal that are going to make waves. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but it is kind of funny. 15 toughest schedules in 2022. There was a lot of love last night for Joe Burrow. Man, it seemed like everybody wanted Joe Burrow to win. He's become like someone said he looks like Macaulay Culkin. And I'm like, yeah, he looks like Macaulay Culkin that didn't hang out with Michael Jackson and didn't do drugs. I mean, he looks like he's just a kid out there and he's playing. Can you imagine Joe Burrow if they actually had a offensive line to protect him? Because he got popped a lot last night. T. Higgins had a big night there for Clemson. The big Clemson alumni or Clemson player. I don't think he's got his degree yet. I don't want to put that out there, but he goes out and has 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. He ended up leading the team in receiving on the night, if I remember correctly. So yeah, a good night for him. But the Rams defense showed up. Matt Stafford, someone posted this morning. Let's get this straight. Matt Stafford leaves the Detroit Lions after 12 seasons, goes to another team, retires Tom Brady, and wins the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's a heck of a season there for him. A lot of respect last night for Cooper Kupp, who they kept throwing the ball to once they realized that's all that they had after Odell Beckham Jr. tore up his knee. He has another ACL injury, and he's going to be out for a while. But Cooper Kupp, the guy from Eastern Michigan that nobody really knew anything about, goes out, puts on a show. Does really well last night, ends up winning the Super Bowl MVP. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Papa says Cooper Kupp, the 0-star with offers from Idaho State and Eastern Washington. Yeah. That's just proof that exactly what he said. Another gem the big schools missed out on. That happens. 803-978-1832. If you want to respond to the stuff with the Super Bowl, if you want to respond to the stuff Beg and Megan said, he doesn't like Prince. That says a lot about him. Maybe they didn't let him listen to it when he was at a monastery, not a convent. He was at a monastery. Maybe that was part of the stuff there. He couldn't listen to Prince. And that's sad. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. UGA Go Dog says, yeah, the Bengals were close. Yeah, they were. They were right there. That defense, though, for the Rams, they weren't having it. And you thought that we were going to get Joe Burrow to add another, star to his helmet. He's going to go out there. He's got a minute to go. He's going to get an opportunity to quite possibly get out there and lead his team to another comeback. And they have the team right there, and they lose by a field goal. Brandon says, of course, responding to Megan, Muschamp was a terrible coach. He had Ernest Jones, J.C. Horn, DJ Wanham, Ken Law, and Mukwamu on his defense, and the defense was terrible. Ernest Jones is a great player for the Rams. That hurts the feelings of Megan, sir. He has problems. Don't get upset with him because he thinks that Will Muschamp is the greatest ever. By the way, Mizzou didn't really fire their defensive coordinator, Steve Wilkes, who they wanted to fire in the middle of the season before he righted the defense, has left to go coach in the NFL for the Carolina Panthers, I believe. So they're looking for a new defensive coordinator. The coaching carousel, it continues to turn. All right, we come back from break. The 15 toughest schedules in 2022. Already some projections out there. We'll also talk some hoops, all kinds of stuff, and we'll move your calls to the front of the line, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Basketball's tough, Justin. I mean, you watch some of those games, you think there's just so much better. It's a mess. Zach says Georgia's going to repeat. Okay, we'll see. It's kind of hard to project at this point, but a lot of guys not back on that defense. But they may do it. Who knows? I don't know how Alan says UGA won the Super Bowl. Poor Alan. I still don't want Kirby Smart coaching the team. My team, anyway. His 9th year at UGA. Drewski says the Gamecocks won't be any good. You're probably right. Look, I wish that I could tell you something good about the Clemson basketball team, but I got nothing. There's no sunshine to pump there. There really isn't. I mean, other than PJ Hall, is there anything to be excited about with Clemson basketball? I don't get the whole thing of how people are expecting me to sit here and try to defend Clemson. People think I'm a Clemson apologist, and I'm not. It's ridiculous. I don't like the way, up until this season, the way that he dealt with quarterbacks and the way he deals with the media. That's all. He's a good coach. Won a national title. I don't like the way he's dealt with quarterbacks, to be honest. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Let's get into it from 247 Sports. The 15 toughest schedules for the upcoming season. And I looked at some of these, and some of these like, okay, they've got Penn State at number 15. Number of potential ranked opponents is at 4. Here's the thing with that. And I know that this upsets a lot of people, but the reality is it comes back to this, and I stand by this. You don't know how tough your schedule is going to be until the end of the season. Remember, there were a lot of folks that picked Arkansas to finish last in the SEC West last year. They didn't. turns out that was Arkansas was a tough out for just about everybody. So you don't know how good your schedule is until you get to the end of the regular season. And then you look at the number of teams that are ranked in the top 25 once the regular season is over. Then you can determine, okay, of our 12 games set up, 5 teams we played ended up ranked. That's a pretty tough schedule. But when you go, you'll hear people talk about, hey, we played a tough schedule because this team was ranked 12th when we played them, and that team finished 4-8. You didn't play the 12th ranked team in the country. Okay, they may have been 12th ranked at the time, but do you really think they were the 12th best team in the country? No. All of those numbers are built up with just hype. And a lot of it comes down to, well, we think, and it's some writer or someone else. And look, I fill out a preseason bracket for the a preseason poll for the ACC when I go to ACC kickoff. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's hard to determine who is going to go where. Last season, I had North Carolina winning the Coastal Division, and they stunk. They stunk. So a lot of this is just a lot of guessing and a lot of hype because you think you know who's coming back and who's not. But I'm going to roll through this. Here's the thing. October, Penn State plays Michigan, Minnesota, and Ohio State in consecutive weeks. That comes after Penn State travels to Purdue and Auburn in September. That's kind of tough. We can look at that from a perspective of you're going on the road to play at an SEC stadium, even though I think that Auburn's not going to be very good. Winning on the road is tough. So there might be some validity to that. They've also got BYU at number 14. They've got Baylor and Oregon on their schedule. So that looks kind of tough there. 13, they've got the Baylor Bears. The reigning Big 12 champion could be wobbly by the time November rolls around. Baylor opens at nationally ranked BYU, travels to Iowa State for the conference opener in week 3, and hosts Oklahoma State all before a week 5 open date. So, yeah, in theory, it's going to be tough. 12th schedule is Notre Dame. Notre Dame plays Southern Cal. They open at Big Ten favorite Ohio State. They host Clemson. And they play BYU in October. There's also a trip to North Carolina stuck in there. So, yeah, it's kind of tough for Notre Dame. Ole Miss, they will play, let's see here. They say Lane Kiffin could have a team that could be 7-0 going to Baton Rouge in week 8. Then they play the SEC West. After LSU, Ole Miss plays at Texas A&M, gets an open date before hosting Alabama, and finishes with Arkansas on the road and Mississippi State. So, yeah, you could have a 7th-ranked team or 7-0 team, and then all of a sudden things could go down the tube. South Carolina is projected to be the number 10th ranked schedule with the potential of 5 ranked opponents. Of course, they've got the, quote, Orange Crush part of their schedule. The Gamecocks will do all they can to avoid a 1-2 start with a trip to Arkansas and a home game against Georgia over the first 3 weeks of the season before traveling to Kentucky and battling Texas A&M, a team they have not beaten since the Aggies entered the SEC in Columbia prior to November. The final 3 games, the Gamecocks play Florida, Tennessee, and Clemson. It's like 3 in a row on that front. Let's go out to the phones, 803-978-1832. And welcome into the rundown. Hello. That's some silliness there. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Jimmy wants to know if there's any indication when Texas and Oklahoma will exit the Big 12. Hopefully as soon as possible. So we can stop talking about it. But, yeah, I don't know for certain. Number 9 on the list is Michigan State. They will play Washington, host Minnesota. They take on Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan consecutively over a 4-week stretch. Road game at Penn State in the regular season finale. So, yeah, that's going to be tough too. The 8th ranked schedule is Alabama. Alabama goes to Texas in week 2 for a rare non-conference game against a Power 5 team on the road. Of course, the matchup with Steve Sarkisian. Arkansas, October is a big month for them as they will play Arkansas, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. So, yeah, tough schedule there for Alabama. Number 7 on the list is Indiana. Indiana is interesting because they play Cincinnati away from home, Nebraska, and return home to play Michigan. In November, they host Penn State before road showdowns against Ohio State and Michigan State. We'll see on that one. Number 6 is Texas A&M. Playing that SEC West schedule is going to be tough. They will play Miami, and the season-defining matchup comes October the 8th at Alabama, where Fisher will try and beat Nick Saban for the second straight year. See how that goes. 5 is Ohio State. And the way their schedule sets up, by the halfway point, Ohio State will have already played Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and Michigan State for an open date for Iowa. They have games with Penn State and Michigan in the second half of the season that are going to be tough. Number 4 is Arkansas, Sam Pittman's team. They open against Cincinnati, a team that hasn't lost a regular season game since 2019. Then they have home field games the next couple of weeks against the first couple of weeks against the Bearcats and South Carolina. A week 4 matchup with Texas A&M. That's before the Alabama game will kind of determine their season. Arkansas's got a tough looking schedule here. Number 3 on the list is Auburn. So Brian Harsin, who probably doesn't want to be there, has the third projected toughest schedule in the country. Auburn has road games against Georgia and Alabama. They travel to Ole Miss and host Penn State, LSU, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. On paper, that looks tough. Finally, Maryland is number 2. They've got they play SMU in non-conference. They face all of the Big Ten's best: Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Ohio State. And 3 of those games are on the road. There's a chance Maryland will be a double-digit underdog in at least 4 conference matchups next season. It's just tough on that side of the Big Ten. And number 1, as projected, with the toughest schedule, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. The Bulldogs, after opening the SEC slate in week 3 at LSU following non-conference contests with Memphis and Arizona, which, by the way, are not too, that might be interesting there. Mississippi State hosts Bowling Green before Texas A&M, Arkansas, at Kentucky, at Alabama. They host the reigning national champion Georgia on November 12th and play Ole Miss on the road on Thanksgiving. I say that's tough. Tough stuff there. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we come back. Do you agree with some of those? Which one do you think makes the most sense? Yeah, that's tough. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, Papa Blake, that's funny. I had to get my phone. Hold on. By the way, I kind of agree with what Papa Blake says. Win 8 games and everybody's happy. Uncle Lou says I have a super easy schedule again. Probably going undefeated for the 9th season in a row. Holy shit. You're funny, Uncle Lou. I kind of agree with you on that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. The toughest schedules announced, projected schedules announced for the upcoming season, which, by the way, none of those really mean anything. When you look at, let's use Mississippi State for an example. If LSU doesn't find their way, they're another team that finishes 5-7. Is that really like a tough game on their schedule? Probably not. Kentucky finds their way or doesn't find their way. That could be a game that may end up being tougher or, not nearly as tough. I still think Texas A&M is an 8-4 team every year under Jimbo Fisher. Yeah, I know he won 10 games. I'm just not really impressed. Uncle Lou online says Clemson needs to do something this year because they open with UGA in 23, so that's a wasted season. Okay. Georgia fans are great right now because you can't really throw rocks at the throne. They've won the national title. Now they have to shake the are we going to be a one-hit wonder deal? Are they going to be in the national title run every season? We don't know. That's kind of what they have to deal with now. They're the kings of the field right now, though. People run their mouth against them are kind of silly. Throwing rocks at the throne. They're the best team in college football right now. Until somebody unseats them. It's kind of, you look silly when you say things about them. They went out. They beat Alabama, slayed that dragon, beat the tar out of the Big Ten's best team in Michigan, beat one of the better teams in the ACC in Clemson. It's kind of hard to throw rocks at them at all. But yet there are people that are still out there that still want to run their mouths a little bit. Kind of silly. Drewski says, I don't think they're going to go every year. Going every year is not really the way to go. I mean, when you really stop and think about it, there's only one national champion every year. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. The projected schedules that are the toughest. And when you look at South Carolina, they're number 10. Valid point from Uncle Lou. UGA won't repeat, but they aren't disappointing like LSU. Oof. There you go with that. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, well, how you doing, my man?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Doing good. Hey, wow, I was happy the West won Super Bowl yesterday. It feels good,
Yeah. Was an interesting Super Bowl, man. But hey, you have another comment?
Yep. Hey, well, I feel bad for Joe Burrow. At least he got there, but I think he needs help to be protected.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. Hey, thanks for calling the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a good one, my brother.
All right, man. See you later on. You can imagine if Joe Burrow had some help on the offensive line because he got popped pretty much every game. But yeah, there's that too. They talk about how great having that dynamic receiver with Jamar Chase, and he's great, but it's not really helping him on the protection front. They need to figure that out in the draft. Get some guys that can actually help on the offensive line or sign somebody. There's that with the whole thing with Joe Burrow. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Some comments. Georgia fans love Screech now, of course, with Stetson Bennett. Yeah. I mean, the guy won the national title for him. Until somebody unseats him, it's kind of hard to really throw rocks at him either. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. South Carolina schedule ranked 10th, according to 247 Sports, as far as being the toughest in the country. And I think a lot of that, when you step back and look at it, the back half of their schedule is tough. Final 3 games, they take on Florida, Tennessee, and Clemson. That's a tough stretch for just about anybody. They've also got Texas A&M, a team that they've got to shake that thing off their back right now because they've never beaten them. And it's a brutal start to the season. They go on the road to Arkansas, and then they come home and play a Georgia team that's favored to win the East. It's going to be it's like their schedule is a sandwich of just toughness at the top and toughness at the bottom. In addition to that, they got to go to Kentucky. So, the 40,000 fans at Kroger Field are going to be really, really upset if Coach Stoops can't get the job done. By the way, there was something else that came out about Gamecock football that I thought was interesting. According to one report, South Carolina ranks near the bottom of the SEC in assistant coach pay. This is from Ben Portnoy from the State newspaper. He says that South Carolina's combined spending on assistant football coaches rank just below Mizzou, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Now, if you're going to, a lot of that comes from the fact that they paid Shane Beamer $2.75 million. They're supposed to have a board meeting on Friday, where I assume that's going to get bumped up a little bit. Now, of course, they had the whole thing where they had to pay Will Muschamp a bunch of money to go be Georgia's eventual defensive coordinator, as he's laughing all the way to the bank. But maybe that was part of it with Shane Beamer. But when you stop and think about it, the fact that they won 7 games with the money that they spent, which was just ahead of what the other schools that I talked about, kind of makes you think, man, they're the best bargain on the SEC market. You know what I'm saying? $2.75 million for Shane Beamer, and that's great when you stop and look at it, but it's not anywhere near what some of the other coaches around the country make. And from the outside looking in, if people don't know, they're going to think maybe South Carolina doesn't value football as much as other schools do. The money shows on this end that maybe they don't. We shall see. 803-978-1832. As you look at $2.75 million for Shane Beamer, Marcus Satterfield gets $900,000. Clayton White, the defensive coordinator, $900,000. Greg Atkins, your offensive line coach, $550,000. And then it rolls downhill from there. As far as head coaches, Beamer's salary ranked last among the head coaches from the conference whose salaries were made public in the coaching salary database. Vanderbilt's Clark Lee was not included there, a private school. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Big Barney Ross here. I just want to say something real quick about all this money and financing and paying coaches. I hear that John Calipari is giving away a free seminar on how to spend money for players, coaches, and some NIL. So I'm throwing that out there. It's online at WKU.net. So if anybody needs some tips on how to,
Come on, man. How are you going to call up and talk about John Calipari when you know that he's had issues everywhere he went? It's like, come on now.
Hey, game recognizes game, all right? If you're good at what you do, you don't need – Kentucky does have a good economics class. I mean, it really does. And I just wanted to throw that out there for all the fans that call in and listen to your show, that they can tune in to listen to John Calipari. So, Big Barney Ross, you think about it, I'm out of here.
Thank you, Big Barney Ross, for calling the program. I don't know about that. Jimmy asked, how much did each school get from the SEC in revenue last week? I think it was like $56.4 million. So there's that. I don't know. I think they're going to be bumping up some salaries here shortly. I really do. We'll see how that works out. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Quick break. We'll be right back. Yeah, the stuff that goes on with Vanderbilt and the way that they're able to offer baseball scholarships is kind of silly. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. The Vandy boys thing, man, that just sounds just, when you hear that and they're talking the Vandy boys, oh man, just the way they talk about it just sounds like it's, I don't know, messy. Leave it at that, messy. Yeah, look at that. The Vandy Whistler. I can't stand that guy either. Can't stand him. I mean, apparently the Vanderbilt folks love him, but I'm in the camp of this guy's terrible. Just stop. You're taking away from the game. But they all chant, the Vandy boys. Ugh, what a mess. I got to trim up my beard. It's starting to I can probably grow some birds in it or something. Final segment of the Rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Another great comment from Uncle Lou. National title count. Stetson Bennett 1, Peyton Manning 0. Can you imagine how many national titles Peyton Manning would have had, though, if he would have had that Georgia defense, which I still think is one of the best that I've seen in the past 20 years? There's definitely that, too. There are Georgia fans that'll tell you that Stetson Bennett rode that Georgia defense to a national title, and it's kind of hard to argue against that. When you really step back out of the bubble and you're not a Georgia fan and you can be objective, you'd have to say Stetson Bennett was great for what he did there, but maybe there's a section of folks that are like, I don't really want him being the quarterback. Someone was arguing with me yesterday about they thought that he was more talented than Spencer Rattler, which is kind of funny to me. Because I think the average Georgia fan, if they were looking at it from an objective perspective, they would tell you, yeah, we'd much rather have Spencer Rattler back there taking snaps than Stetson Bennett, just based on pure talent. But Stetson Bennett gets the job done. I don't think they're going to have the defense they had last year, though. And for folks that come up and say, oh, well, we've got this guy coming back and that guy coming back, you're kind of not being respectful to the defense that you had. That was a generational type defense. Seriously. They were that good. And to think, oh, we got this guy coming back and that guy coming back, kind of takes away from it a little bit. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown. I did pull something on the transfer portal. B. Bean wants to know, would Georgia have won the Natty with Spencer Rattler? I think Spencer Rattler is more talented than Stetson Bennett. I don't know the attitude that Spencer Rattler has, but I imagine with some of the tools that he had there, and with that Georgia offensive line, their ability to block for him, and the fact that he had some great running backs, I think they would definitely be in the conversation. We're not going to, you got to remember, this guy threw for 3,000 plus yards as a freshman at Oklahoma. And the guy that set him on the bench is going to be a top guy too in Caleb Williams. So I don't think that talent is the issue with Spencer Rattler. In my opinion, a lot of it's got to do with that 6 inches of muscle between his ears. Can he not get poundy face? But as far as talent, I don't think that, the folks that were arguing with me about Stetson Bennett the other day being better than Spencer Rattler, kind of silly. Anyway, we can take calls on that 803-978-1832. I pulled this about the transfer portal. Now, of course, on our program, we take what coach, the coach for Wake Forest said about the transfer portal, that it's also called the trash portal. And I think that he's right. Dave Clawson has called it the trash portal. And it ends up with coaches that build their teams and build their programs where when the upperclassmen finally, or when they finally get to have upperclassmen that have been there with experience, like what Dave Clawson tries to do at Wake Forest, now a lot of these guys are going to go away, and it ends up hurting these folks, and I can understand why they say it's a trash portal. But Louisville's considered number one in these rankings, the biggest winners and losers from the ACC, with number one being Louisville. They lost Hassan Hall, who went to Georgia Tech. Let's slow down for just a second. Why would you go from Louisville to Georgia Tech? What can Georgia Tech do better for you than what Louisville's done for you? You've already been there 4 years. Might as well finish out your year, but hey, I'm going to go to Georgia Tech for a year. What? I read that, and it's like, Hall's a pretty good player. But the reality is, this guy is going from Louisville to Georgia Tech. What silliness that is. Number 2 on the list here is Miami, who, in addition to getting Frank Latson from Clemson, they've also got Southern Cal defensive lineman Jake Lichtenstein, Ole Miss running back Henry Parrish. Mario Cristobal is definitely doing his best out there on the recruiting trail because he knows there are some holes that he has to fill in down there at Miami. But you keep going down the list. Georgia Tech lost a pair of 4-star players to SEC teams in the portal, including Jahmyr Gibbs, who was the team's leading rusher last season, 746 yards. They did get some other guys to come into the mix, but it seems like Jeff Collins is kind of grasping right now, just trying to find the right mix to get a team out there that can win 6 or 7 games and get Georgia Tech back to a bowl game. Now, I know some folks look at Georgia Tech and they think, man, they had that dinosaur offense with Paul Johnson, and they had to completely rebuild. But I think that Jeff Collins, if he doesn't get it right this year, he may be looking at the ACC network for a TV job. Finally, the worst ranked team in the Clemson in the transfer portal rankings for the ACC has been Clemson. They lost 11 players in the portal, including Lynn J. Dixon, who's going to be the starting running back at West Virginia, and Frank Latson, who's down at Miami. But they did get former Clemson backup Hunter Johnson, who went to Northwestern, who wanted to be a graduate assistant, but Coach Sweeney said, hey, you got 1 year of eligibility left. Let's see how that goes. And now he's back there. That's the one guy from the transfer portal. And I wonder if eventually this is going to catch up to Clemson. I really, really do. Because a lot of these teams, they're ranked dead last in the ACC as far as players that have played somewhere else and are moving into their program. And we're at a point now where if you look at teams like an Alabama who get the top-ranked classes all the time, they're still entering the transfer portal, and they're getting some guys. They got Toto from Tennessee to come in and play linebacker for them. They got Burton, the wide receiver from Georgia. So I know this sounds like I'm being silly here, but if Nick Saban's doing it, you better get in the mix. Better get in the mix. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon as we wrap up the Monday edition. It's Valentine's Day. Hopefully you got your stuff squared away for your spouse. Jason says UGA's defense this season was a generational defense. It'll be a long time before we see something like that again. And he says, I hope I'm wrong. Look, saying that they aren't, I mean, the folks that tell me, hey, Georgia's going to be right back in the mix, I think Georgia has probably on paper right now, if you held me down and said, figure out who's going to win the SEC East, it's really hard to go against to go against Georgia, even though Tennessee is trying to move their way up and Kentucky is normally tougher than a $2 steak. But Georgia just has so much talent that it's really hard to say, okay, they're going to fall back. You're more apt to see a team like a Kentucky or a Tennessee fall backwards than you would a Georgia team, simply because they've got too much talent. And it's kind of hard to pick against them. But as far as being that team that's in that national championship hunt, it's going to be hard. Kobe says Florida might lose to Vanderbilt. Oof. I don't think Vanderbilt won a conference game last year. And Florida, I think they're going to end up getting a bunch of transfer portal guys. And I think they're going to be a team that has a lot of guys on it. There's going to be a lot of different personalities there. And until Coach Napier can figure out how to get more recruits to come to Florida, he's out in the ocean and he's got water coming on board at all different sides. And he's just trying to find patches to keep that program up afloat. It's kind of where they are. And until he can figure out on the recruiting end how to fix it, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess down at Florida this year. Losing to Vanderbilt, though, woof. I wonder, there's going to be the SEC apologists online that are going to think that Florida is going to bounce back. Maybe they're not SEC apologists, they're the Florida apologists. Oh, they're going to win, 8 to 9 games next season. I don't know. I really don't know. We shall see on Florida. They're the biggest question program. They could come out and win 8 games or they could win 5. Who knows at this point? All right, later on this week on the rundown, we're going to start talking college baseball as college baseball season gets underway. We'll have that and a lot of other cool things as we roll along. Lots of basketball coverage and whatever comes up in the world of football. All of that for you on the rundown. I'm on Twitter at RobSoundsGood. Be sure to talk to my friend Lawton Swan. He is the czar of Clemson sports. He's on today from 4 to 6.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
I'm on Twitter at RobSoundsGood. We'll see you tomorrow. You guys rock, man. We'll see you later on. Thank you guys for showing up today. Talk to you later on. Have a good Valentine's Day.